morning from Trieste, from Radio Fragola. This is John McCourt here with Eric Schneider and Owen McCourt from the Joyce School. We're recovering from Bloomsday Eve, and Bloomsday begins here. And I'll start. Bah. What is that flying about? Swallow? Bat, probably. Thinks I'm a tree, so blind. Have birds no smell? Metempsychosis. They believed you could be changed into a tree from grief. Weeping willow. Bah. There he goes, funny little beggar. Wonder where he lives. Belfry up there, very likely. Hanging by his heels in the odour of sanctity. Bell scared him out, I suppose. Mass seems to be over. Could hear them all at it. Pray for us, and pray for us, and pray for us. Good idea, the repetition. Same thing with ads. Buy from us, and buy from us. Yes, there's the light in the priest's house. Their frugal meal. Remember about the mistake in the valuation when I was in comms. 28 it is. 2 houses they have. Gabriel Conroy's brother is curate. Bah, again. Wonder why they come out at night like mice. They're a mixed breed. Birds are like hopping mice. What frightens them, light or noise? Better sit still. All instinct, like the bird in drought got water out of the end of a jar by throwing in pebbles. Like a little man in a cloak he is, with tiny hands, weeny bones. Almost see them shimmering, kind of a bluey white. Colours depend on the light you see. Stare at the sun, for example, like the eagle, then look at a shoe, see a blotch blob yellowish. Wants to stamp his trademark on everything. Instant. That cat this morning on the staircase, colour of brown turf. Say you never see them with 3 colours. Not true. That half-tabby white tortoiseshell in the City Arms with the letter M on her forehead. Body 50 different colours. Oh, a while ago, amethyst. Glass flashing. That's how that wise man, what's his name, with the burning glass. Then the heather goes on fire. It can't be tourists' matches, what? Perhaps the sticks dry rubbed together in the wind and light. Or broken bottles in the firs act as a burning glass in the sun. Archimedes, I have it! My memory's not so bad. Bah. Who knows what they're always flying for? Insects? That bee last week got into the room playing with his shadow on the ceiling. Might be the one bit me. Come back to see. Birds, too, never find out what they like. Like our small talk. And says she and says he, nerve they have to fly over the ocean and back. Lots must be killed in storms, telegraph wires. Dreadful life sailors have too. Big brutes of ocean-going steamers, floundering along in the dark, lowing out like sea cows. Fawa bala! Out of that bloody curse to you! Others in vessels, bit of a handkerchief sail, pitched about like snuff at a wake when the stormy winds do blow. Married too, sometimes away for years at the ends of the earth somewhere. No ends really, because it's round. Wife in every port, they say. She has a good job if she minds it till Johnny comes marching home again, if ever he does. Smelling the tail end of ports. How can they like the sea? Yet they do. The anchor's weighed, off he sails with a scapular or a medal on him for luck. Well, and the tephilim? No, what's this they call it poor Papa's father had on his door to touch? That brought us out of the land of Egypt and into the house of bondage. Something in all those superstitions, because when you go out, never know what dangers. Hanging onto a plank or astride of a beam for grim life, lifebelt round him, gulping salt water, and that's the last of his nibs till the sharks catch hold of him. Do fish ever get seasick? Then you have a beautiful calm without a cloud, smooth sea, placid crew and cargo in smithereens, Davy Jones's locker, moon looking down so peaceful. Not my fault, old cockalorum. A last lonely candle wandered up the sky from Myra's Bazaar in search of funds for Mercer's Hospital, and broke, drooping, and shed a cluster of violet but 1 white stars. They floated, fell, they faded. The shepherd's hour, the hour of folding, hour of tryst. From house to house, giving his ever-welcome double knock, went the 9 o'clock postman, the glowworm's lamp at his belt gleaming here and there through the laurel hedges. And among the 5 young trees a hoisted linstock lit the lamp at Leahy's terrace. By screens of lighted windows, by equal gardens, a shrill voice went crying, wailing, "Evening Telegraph, stop press edition, result of the Gold Cup races!" And from the door of Dignam's house a boy ran out and called. Twittering, the bat flew here, flew there. Far out over the sands the coming surf crept grey. Holt settled for slumber, tired of long days, of yum-yum rhododendrons. He was old, and felt gladly the night breeze lift, ruffle his fell of ferns. He lay but opened a red eye unsleeping, deep and slowly breathing, slumberous but awake. And far on the Kish bank the anchored lightship twinkled, winked at Mr. Bloom. Life those chaps out there must have, stuck in the same spot. Irish Lights Board, penance for their sins, coastguards too, rocket and breeches, buoy and lifeboat. Davy went out for the pleasure cruise in the Erin's King, throwing them the sack of old papers, bears in the zoo, filthy trip, drunkards out to shake up their livers, puking overboard to feed the herrings, nausea. And the women, fear of God in their faces. Millie, no sign of a funk. Her blue scarf loose, laughing, don't know what death is at that age, and then their stomachs clean. But being lost they fear. When we hid behind the tree at Crumlin, I didn't want to. Mama, mama, babes in the wood, frightening them with masks too, throwing them up in the air to catch them. I'll murder you. Is it only half fun? Or children playing battle, whole earnest? How can people aim guns at each other? Sometimes they go off. Poor kids, only troubles wildfire and nettle rash. Calomel purge, I got her for that. After getting better asleep with Molly. Very same teeth she has. What do they love? Another themselves? But the morning she chased her with the umbrella, perhaps so as not to hurt, I felt her pulse, ticking, little hand it was, now big, dearest Papley. All that the hand says when you touch. Loved to count my waistcoat buttons. Her first stays, I remember, made me laugh to see. Little paps to begin with. Left one is more sensitive, I think. Mine too, nearer the heart. Padding themselves out if fat is in fashion. Her growing pains at night, calling, wakening me. Frightened she was when her nature came on her first. Poor child. Strange moment for the mother too. Brings back her childhood. Gibraltar. Looking from Buena Vista. O'Hara's tower, the seabirds screaming, old Barbary ape that gobbled all his family. Sundown. Gunfire for the men to cross the lines. Looking out over the sea, she told me. Evening like this, but clear, no clouds. I always thought I'd marry a lord or a rich gentleman coming with a private yacht. Buenas noches, señorita. El hombre ama la muchacha hermosa. Why me? Because you were so foreign from the others. Better not stick here all night like a limpet. This weather makes you dull. Must be getting on for 9 by the light. Go home. Too late for Leah, Lily of Killarney? No. Might still be up. Call to the hospital to see. Hope she's over. Long day I've had. Martha, the bath, funeral, house of keys, museum with those goddesses. Daedalus's song. Then that baller in Barney Kiernan's. Got my own back there, drunken ranters. What I said about his God made him wince. Mistake to hit back, or no? Ought to go home and laugh at themselves. Always to be swilling in company, afraid to be alone like a child of 2. Suppose he hit me. Look at it the other way round. Not so bad then. Perhaps not to hurt, he meant. 3 cheers for Israel. 3 cheers for his sister-in-law he hawked about, 3 fangs in her mouth. Same style of beauty. Particularly nice old party for a cup of tea. The sister of the wife of the wild man of Borneo has just come to town. Imagine that in the early morning at close range. Everyone to his taste, as Morris said when he kissed the cow. But Dignam's put the boots on it. Houses of mourning. So depressing because you never know. Anyhow, she wants the money. Must call to those Scottish widows as I promised. Strange name. Takes it for granted we're going to pop off first. That widow, on Monday was it, outside Kramer's that looked at me. Buried the poor husband, but progressing favourably on the premium. Her widows might. Well, what do you expect her to do? Must wheedle her way along. Widower I hate to see, look so forlorn. Poor man O'Connor, wife and 5 children poisoned by mussels here. The sewage. Hopeless. Some good matronly woman in a pork pie hat to mother him. Take him in tow, platter face in a large apron. Ladies' grey flannelette bloomers, 3 shillings a pair, astonishing bargain. Plain and loved, loved forever, they say. ugly. No woman thinks she is. Love, lie, and be handsome, for tomorrow we die. See him sometimes walking about trying to find out who played the trick. UP, up. Fate, that is. He, not me. Also a shop often noticed. Curse seems to dog it. Dreamt last night. Wait, something confused. She had red slippers on. Turkish, wore the breeches. Suppose she does. Would I like her in pyjamas? Damned hard to answer. Nanetti's gone. Mailboat. Near Holyhead by now. Must nail that ad at Keys. Work. Hines and Crawford. Petticoats for Molly. She has something to put in them. What's that? Might be money. Mr. Bloom stooped and turned over a piece of paper on the strand. He brought it near his eyes and peered. Letter? No. Can't read. Better go, better. I'm tired to move. Page of an old copybook, all those holes and pebbles. Who could count them? Never know what you find. Bottle with story of a treasure in it thrown from a wreck. Parcels post. Children always want to throw things in the sea. Trust? Bread cast on the waters. What's this? Bit of stick. Oh, exhausted that female has me. Not so young now. Would she come here tomorrow? Wait for her somewhere forever. Must come back. Murderers do. Will I? Mr. Bloom with his stick gently vexed the thick sand at his foot. Write a message for her. Might remain. What? I? Some flat-foot tramp on it in the morning. Useless. Washed away. Tide comes here a pool near her foot. Bend, see my face there. Dark mirror, breathe on it. Stirs. All those rocks with lines and scars and letters. All those transparent. Besides, they don't know. What is the meaning of that other world? I called you naughty boy because I do not like AMA. No room, let it go. Mr. Bloom effaced the letters with his slow boot. Hopeless thing, sand. Nothing grows in it. All fades. No fear of big vessels coming up here, except Guinness's barges. Round the Kish in 80 days. Done half by design. He flung his wooden pen away. The stick fell in silted sand, stuck. Now if you were trying to do that for a week on end, you couldn't. Chance. We'll never meet again, but it was so lovely. Goodbye, dear. Thanks. Made me feel so young. Short snooze now if I had. Must be near time. Liverpool boat long gone. Not even the smoke. And she can do the other. Did too. And Belfast. I won't go. Race there. Race back to Ennis. Let him. Just close my eyes a moment. Won't sleep though. Half dream. It never comes the same. Bat again. No harm in it. Just a few. Oh, sweetie. All your little girl white up I saw. Dirty brace girdle made me do love. Sticky we two. Naughty Grace. Darling, she had him half past the bed. Met him, pike, hoses, frillies. For Raoul to perfume your wife. Black hair, heave under embon senorita. Young eyes, mulvey, plump. Years' dreams return tail end. Again that. Swoony, lovey showed me her next year in drawers, return next in her next. A bat flew, here, there, here. Far in the grey, a bell chimed. Mr. Bloom, with open mouth, his left boot sanded sideways, leaned, breathed, just for a few. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. The clock on the mantelpiece in the priest's house cooed, where Canon O'Hanlon and Father Conroy and the Reverend John Hughes S.J. were taking tea and soda bread and butter and fried mutton chops with catsup and talking about cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. Because it was a little canary bird that came out of its little house to tell the time, that Gertie MacDowell noticed the time was there because she was as quick as anything about a thing like that, was Gertie MacDowell. And she noticed at once that that foreign gentleman that was sitting on the rocks looking was cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. Deschel holeseamus, deschel holeseamus, deschel holeseamus. Send us bright one, light one, horhorn, quickening and womb fruit. Send us bright one, light one, horhorn, quickening and womb fruit. Send us bright one, light one, horhorn, quickening and womb fruit. Hoopsa, boy, a boy, hoopsa, Hoopsa boy a boy, hoopsa! Hoopsa boy a boy, hoopsa! Universally, that person's acumen is esteemed very little perceptive concerning whatsoever matters are being held as most profitably by mortals with sapience endowed, to be studied, who is ignorant of that which the most in doctrine, erudite, and certainly by reason of that in them high minds ornament deserving of veneration, constantly maintain, when by general consent they affirm that other circumstances being equal by no exterior splendour, is the prosperity of a nation more efficaciously asserted than by the measure of how far forward may have progressed the tribute of its solicitude for that proliferant continuance, which of evils the original, if it be absent when fortunately present, constitutes a certain sign of omnipotent nature's incorrupted benefaction. For who is there who anything of some significance has apprehended, but is conscious that the exterior splendour may be the surface of a downward tending luculent reality, or, on the contrary, anyone so is there illuminated as not to perceive that as no nature's boon can contend against the bounty of increase, so it behoves every most just citizen to become the exhortator and admonisher of his semblables, and to tremble lest what had in the past been by the nation excellently commenced might in the future not with similar excellence accomplished, if an irrevericund habit shall have gradually traduced the honourable by ancestors transmitted customs to that hither of profundity, that one was audacious excessively who would have the hardihood to rise, affirming that no more odious offence can for anyone be than to oblivious neglect to consign that evangel simultaneously command and promise which on all mortals with the prophecy of abundance, or with diminution's menace that exalted of reiteratedly procreating function, ever irrevocably enjoined. It is not why therefore we shall wonder if, as the best historians relate, among the Celts, who nothing that was not in its nature admirable admired, the art of medicine shall have been highly honoured. Not to speak of hostels, leper yards, sweating chambers, plague graves, their greatest doctors, the O'Shiels, the O'Hickeys, the O'Lees, have sedulously set down the diverse methods by which the sick and the relapsed found again health, whether the malady had been the trembling, withering, or loose boycondle flux. Certainly in every public work, which in it anything of gravity contains preparation, should be with importance commensurate, and therefore a plan was by them adopted, whether by having preconsidered or as the maturation of experience, it is difficult in being said which the discrepant opinions of subsequent inquirers are not up to the present congrued to render manifest, whereby maternity was so far from all accident possibility removed, that whatever care the patient in that all hardest of woman hour chiefly required, and not solely for the copulously opulent, but also for her, who not being sufficiently moneyed, scarcely, and often not even scarcely, could subsist valiantly, and for an inconsiderable emolument was provided. To her nothing already then and henceforth was any way able to be molestful, for this chiefly felt all citizens, except with proliferant mothers, prosperity at all not to can be, and as they had received eternity, God's mortals' generation to befit them her beholding, when the case was so having itself, parturient in vehicle, thereward carrying desire immense among all one another, was impelling on of her to be received into that domicile. O thing of prudent nature, not merely in being, but also even in being related worthy of being praised, that they her by anticipation went seeing mother, that she by them suddenly to be about to be cherished had been begun, she felt. Before born babe bliss had, within womb one he worship, whatever in that one case done commodiously done was, a couch by midwives attended with wholesome food, reposeful cleanest swaddles, as though forthbringing were now done, and by wise foresight set. But to this no less of what drugs there is need, and surgical implements, which are pertaining to her case, not omitting aspect of all very distracting spectacles, in various latitudes by our terrestrial orb, offered together with images divine and human, the cogitation of which by sedjunct females is to tumescence conducive, or eases issue in the high sunbright, well-built, fair home of mothers, when, ostensibly far gone and reproductive, it is come by her thereto to lie in, her term up.
Some man that wayfaring was stood by house door at night's oncoming. Of Israel's folk was that man that on earth wandering far had fared. Stark ruth of man his errand that him lone led till that house. Of that house a horn is lord. 70 beds keeps he there. Teeming mothers are wont that they lie for to thole and bring forth bairns hale. So God's angel to Mary quoth, watches tway there walk white sisters in wards sleepless. Smarts they still, sickness soothing. In 12 moons, thrice an hundred, truest bed things they twain are, for horn holding, wariest ward. In ward wary, the watcher hearing, come that man mild-hearted, after rising with swire he wimpled, to him her gate wide undid. Lo, 11 leaping lightens, and I blink Ireland's westward welcome. Full she dread that God the wreaker all mankind would fordo with water for his evil sins. Christ rude made she on breastbone, and him drew, that he would wrath him fair under her thatch. That man her will wotting, worthful went in Horn's house. Loth to irk in Horn's hall, hat holding, the seeker stood. On her stow he ere was living with dear wife and lovesome daughter, that then over land and seafloor 9 years had long outwandered. Once her in town hithe meeting, he to her bow had not doffed. Her to forgive now he craved, with good ground of her allowed, that of him swift-seen face her so young then had looked. Light swift her eyes kindled, the bloom of blushes, his word winning. As her eyes then on got his weed swart, therefore sorrow she feared. Glad after she was that ere a dread was. Her he asked if O'Hare doctor tidings sent from far coast, and she with grameful sigh him answered that O'Hare doctor in heaven was. Sad was the man that were to hear that him so heavied in bowels ruthful. All she there told him, ruing death for friend so young, all gate sore unwilling God's right wiseness to withsay. She said that he had a fair sweet death through God his goodness, with mass priest to be shriven, holy housel, and sick men's oil to his limbs. The man then right earnest asked the nun of which death the dead man was died, and the nun answered him and said that he was died in Mona Island through bellycrab 3 years agone come Childermass, and she prayed to God the all-ruthful to have his dear soul in his undeathliness. He heard her sad words and held had sad staring. So stood they there both a while in one hope, sorrowing one with other. Therefore every man look to that last end that is thy death, and the dust that grippeth on every man that is born of woman. For as he came naked forth from his mother's womb, so naked shall he wend him at the last, for to go as he came. The man that was come into the house then spoke to the nursing woman, and he asked her how it fared with the woman that lay there in childbed. The nursing woman answered him, and said that that woman was in throes now for 3 days, and that it would be a hard birth on it to bear, but that now in a little it would be. She said thereto that she had seen many births of women, but never was none so hard as was that woman's birth. Then she set it forth all to him that time was had lived nigh that house. The man hearkened to her words, for he felt with wonder the woman's woe and the travail that they have of motherhood, and he wondered to look on her face that was a young face for any man to see, but yet was she left after long years a handmaid. 9-12 blood flows, chiding her childless. And whiles they spake, the door of the castle was opened, and there nigh them a mickle noise, as of many that sat there at meat. And there came against the place as they stood a young learning knight, yclept Dixon, and the traveller Leopold was couthed him, sithen it had happed that they had had ado each with other in the house of Misericord, where this learning knight lay, by cause the traveller Leopold came there to be healed, for he was sore wounded in his breast by a spear, wherewith a horrible and dreadful dragon was smitten him, for which he did do make a salve of volatile salt and chrism, as much as he might suffice. And he said now that he should go into that castle for to make merry with them that were there. The traveller Leopold said that he should go other whither, for he was a man of cautels and a subtle. Also the lady was of his avarice, and reproved the learning knight, though she trowed well that the traveller had said thing that was false for his subtlety. But the learning knight would not hear say nay, nor do her mandament, nay, have him in aught contrarious to his list, and he said how it was a marvellous castle. And the traveller Leopold went into the castle for to rest him for a space, being sore of limb after many marches, and byroning in divers lands, and sometime venery. And in the castle was set a board that was of birch wood of Finlandia, and it was upheld by 4 dwarfmen of that country, but they durst not move more for enchantment. And on this board were frightful swords and knives that were made in a great cavern by swinking demons out of white flames that they fix in the horns of buffaloes and stags that there abound marvellously. And there were vessels that are wrought by magic of mayhound out of sea sand, in the air by a warlock with his breath that he blares into them like to bubbles. And full fair cheer and rich was on the board, that no wight could devise, or for the nay richer. And there was a vat of silver that was moved by craft open, in the which lay strange fishes withouten heads, though misbelieving men knew that this be possible thing without they see it, nay the less they are so. And these fishes lie in oily water brought there from Portugal land, because of the fatness that therein is like to the juices of the olive press. And also it was a marvel to see in that castle how by magic they make a compost out of fecund wheat kidneys out of Chalvee, that by aid of certain angry spirits that they do into it swells up wondrously like to a vast mountain. And they teach the serpents there to entwine themselves up on long sticks out of the ground, and of the scales of these serpents they brew out a brewage like to mead. And the learning knight let pour for child Leopold a draught, and helped thereto, the while all they that were there drank every each. And child Leopold did up his beer for to pleasure him, and took a party somewhat in amity, for he never drank no manner of mead, which he then put by, and anon for privily he boiled the more part in his neighbour's glass, and his neighbour nist not of this while. And he sat down in that castle with them for to rest him there a while, thanked be Almighty God. This meanwhile this good sister stood by the door, and begged them at the reverence of Jesu, or all their liege lord, to leave their waltz sailing, for there was above one quick with child, a gentle dame whose time hied fast. Sir Leopold heard on the upfloor cry on high, and he wondered what cry that it was, whether of a child or woman. And I marvel, said he, that it be not come or now. Meseems it dureth over long. And he was ware, and saw Franklin that hight Lenehan on that side the table that was older than any of the t'other. And for that they both were knights virtuous, and the one imprised, and eke by cause that he was elder, he spoke to him full gently. But said he, or to be long too, she will bring forth by God his bounty, and have joy of her childing, for she hath waited marvellous long. And the Franklin that had drunken said, expecting each moment to be her next. Also he took the cup that stood to for him needed never none asking, nor desiring of him to drink. And now drink, said he, fully delectably, and he quaffed as far as he might to their both's health, for he was a passing good man of his lustiness. And Sir Leopold that was the goodliest guest that ever sat in Scholars' Hall, and was the meekest man and the kindest that ever laid husbandly hand under hen, and there was the very truest knight of the world, one that ever did minion service to Lady Gentle, pledged him courtly in the cup, woman's woes wander pondering. Now let us speak of that fellowship that was there, to the intent to be drunken and they might. There was a sort of scholars along either side the board, that is to wit Dixon Eclep Junior of St. Mary Merciables, and other his fellows Lynch and Madden, scholars of medicine, and the Franklin that hight Lenehan, and one from Alba Longa, one Crothers, and young Stephen that had mien of a frere that was at head of the board, and Costello that men clepping Punch Costello, all long of a mastery of him erstwhile guested, and all of them reserved young Stephen, he was the most drunken that demanded still of more mead, and beside the meek Sir Leopold. But on young Malachi they waited, for that he promised to have come, and such as intended to know goodness said how he had broke his vow. And Sir Leopold sat with them, for he bore fast friendship to Sir Simon, and to this his son, young Stephen. And for that his languor becalmed him there after longest wanderings, insomuch as they feasted him for that time in the honourablest manner. Ruth read him, love led on with will to wander, loath to leave. For they were right witty scholars, and ye heard their soothes each gen others, touching birth and righteousness. Young Madden maintained that put such case it were hard the wife to die, for so it had fallen out a matter of some year agone with a woman of her blood in Moran's house, that now was trespassed out of this world. And the self night next before her death all leeches and apothecaries had taken counsel of her case. And they said further she should live, because in the beginning they said the woman should bring forth in pain. And wherefore they that were of this imagination affirmed how young Madden had said truth, for he had conscience to let her die. And not few and of these was young Lynch, where in doubt that the world was now right evil governed, as it was never other, howbeit the mean people believed it otherwise. But the law nor his judges did provide no remedy, redress God grant. This was scant said, but all cried with one acclaim, Nay, by our Virgin Mother the wife should live, and the babe to die. And colour whereof they waxed hot upon that head, what with argument and what for their dreaming. But the Franklin Lenehan was prompt each when to pour the ale, so that at the least way mirth might not lack. Then young Madden showed all the whole affair, and when he said how that she was dead, and how for holy religion's sake by rede of Palmer and Beatsman, and for a vow he had made to Saint Alton of Abracan, her goodman husband would not let her death, whereby they were all wondrous grieved. To whom young Stephen had these words following, Murmur, says, as he coughed among lay folk, both babe and parent now glorify their Maker, the one in limbo gloom, the other in purge fire. But gramercy, what of those God possible souls that we nightly impossibilize, which is the sin against the Holy Ghost, very God, Lord and giver of life. For, sirs, he said, our lust is brief. We are means to those small creatures within us, and nature has other ends than we. Then Sir Dixon Junior's Punch Costello wist he what ends, but he had overmuch drunk, and the best word he could have of him was that he would ever dishonest a woman, whoso she were, or wife or maid, or layman, if it so fortuned him to be delivered of his spleen of lusty head. Whereat Crotthers Valbalonga sang young Malachi's praise of that beast the unicorn, how once in the millennium he cometh by his horn. The other all this while pricked forward with their jibes, wherewith they did malice him, witnessing all and several by Saint Futinus his engines, that he was able to do any manner of thing that lay in man to do. Thereat laughed they all right jocundly, only young Stephen and Sir Leopold, which never durst laugh too open by reason of a strange humour which he would not bewray, and also for they rued for her that bare, whoso she might be, or wheresoever. Then spoke young Stephen Orgulus of Mother Church, that would cast him out of her bosom, of law of canons, of Lilith, patron of abortions, of bigness wrought by wind, of seeds of brightness, or by potency of vampires, mouth to mouth, or as Virgilius saith, by the influence of the Occident, or by the reek of moonflower, and she lie with a womb which her man has but lain with, effectu secuto, or peradventure in her bath, according to the opinions of Averroes and Moses Maimonides. He said also how that at the end of the second month a human soul was infused, and how in all our Holy Mother foldeth ever souls for God's greater glory, whereas that earthly mother, which was but a dam to bring forth beastly, should die by cannon, for so saith he that holdeth the fisherman's seal, even that blessed Peter, on which rock was Holy Church for all ages founded. All they bachelors then asked of Sir Leopold, would he in like case so jeopard her person as risk life to save life? A wariness of mind he would answer as fitted all, and laying hand to jaw, he said, dissembling as his wont was, that as it was informed him, who had ever loved the art of physic as might a layman, and agreeing also with his experience of so seldom seen an accident, it was good for that Mother Church belike at one blow had birth and death pence, and in such short delivery he scaped their questions. That is truth, pardie, said Dixon, and or I a pregnant word. Which hearing young Stephen was a marvellous glad man, and he averred that he who stealeth from the poor lendeth to the Lord, for he was of a wild manner when he was drunken, and that he was now in that taking it appeared eftsoons. But Sir Leopold was passing grave, maugre his word, by cause he still had pity of the terror-causing shrieking of shrill women in their labour, and as he was minded of his goodly Lady Marian, that had borne him an only man-child, which on his 11th day on live had died, and no man of art could say, so dark is destiny. And she was wonder-stricken of heart, for that evil hap, and for his burial did him on a fair corslet of lamb's wool, the flower of the flock, lest he might perish utterly like he, for it was then about the midst of the winter. And now Sir Leopold, that had of his body no man-child for an heir, looked upon him his friend's son, and was shot in sorrow for his forepast happiness, and as sad as he was that him failed a son of such gentle courage, for all accounted him of real parts, so grieved he also in no less measure for young Stephen, for that he lived riotously with those wastrels that murdered his goods with whores. About that present time young Stephen filled all cups that stood empty, so as there remained but little more, if the prudenter had not shadowed their approach from him that still plied it very busily, who, praying for the intentions of the sovereign pontiff, he gave them for a pledge the vicar of Christ, which also, as he said, is vicar of Bray. Now drink we, quoth he, of this mazer, and quaff ye this mead, which is not indeed parcel of my body, but my soul's embodiment. Leave ye fraction of bread to them that live by bread alone. Be not afeard, neither for any want, for this will comfort more than the other will dismay. See ye here, and he showed them glistering coins of the tribute and goldsmith's note, the worth of £2 19 that he had, he said, for a song which he writ. They all admired to see the foresaid riches and such a dearth of money as was here before. His words were then these as followeth. Know all men, he said, time's ruins build eternity's mansions. What means this? Desire's wind blasts the thorn tree, but after it becomes from a bramble bush to be a rose upon the rood of time. Mark me now, in woman's womb word is made flesh, but in the spirit of the maker all flesh that passes becomes the word that shall not pass away. This is the post-creation, omnis caro ad te veniet, no question but her name is puissant to have entered the dear course of our Agenbuyer, a healer and her, our mighty mother and mother most venerable. And Bernardus saith aptly that he hath an omnipotentium, that she hath an omnipotentium diaparae supplicam, that is, to wit, an almightiness of petition, because she is the second Eve, and she won us, said Augustine too, whereas that other, our grandam, which we are linked up with by successive anastomosis of navel cords, so does all seed breed and generation for a penny pippin. But here's the matter now, she knew him, that second I say, was but creature after creature, virgine madre figlia di tuo figlio, or she knew him not, and then stands in the one denial or ignorancy with Peter Piscator, who lives in the house that Jack built, and with Joseph the Joy, and a patron of the happy demise of all unhappy marriages. Parce que Monsieur le Taxi nous a dit qu'il avait mis dans cette fichue possession, c'était le sacré pigeon. Ventre des deux, entweder transubstantiality oder consubstantiality, but in no case substantiality. And all cried out upon it for a very scurvy word, a pregnancy without joy, he said, a birth without pangs, a body without blemish, a belly without bigness. Let the lewd with faith and fervour worship, with will we withstand, with say. Hereupon Punch Costello dinged with his fist upon the board, and would sing a bawdy catch, sta boo, sta bella, about a wench that was put in paw of a jolly swashbuckler in Albany, which he did now attack. The first 3 months she was not well, sta boo. When here Nurse Quigley from the door angrily bid them hist, ye should shame you, nor was it not meet as she remembered them, being her mind was to have all orderly against Lord Andrew came for, because she was jealous that no gastful turmoil might shorten the honour of her guard. It was an ancient and a sad matron of a staid look and Christian walking, in habit done beseeming her megrims and wrinkled visage, nor did her hortative want of its effect, for incontinently Punch Costello was of them all embraded, and they reclaimed their chur with civil rudeness some, and with menace of blandishments others, whiles all trode with him, a murrain seized the dolt what a devil he would be at, thou chuff, thou puny, thou got in the peastraw, thou lolso, thou chitling, thou spawn of a rebel, thou dyke drop, thou abortion, thou to shut up his drunken drool out of that like a curse of God, ape to the good Sir Leopold that had for his cognizance the flower of quiet margarine gentle, advising also the time's occasion as most sacred and most worthy to be most sacred. In Horn's house rest should reign.